It goes a little bit like this. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, we can solve any problems, do 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 do. Then why will we lose so many tears? Oh, every time you go away, oh, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, I'm back where I belong, back in baby's arms. Do not touch this. Can't touch this. Do 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 do. Do do. Can't touch this. Because why?
Can't touch this.
But this one, I wish I had it in my collection. So do remember, Ein Ticket für zwei is definitely worth seeing, especially at Thanksgiving/Christmas time.
Wenn man's wirklich eilig hat.
Hi there guys, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel called Blast and the Past. And unfortunately, this is the end of the Christmas season, the Christmas time. Alas, what can we do? This is the normal course of events. Everybody's waiting for New Year's Eve, I guess, probably, because it means a couple of days off, or at least one. Well, I did manage to celebrate it in this way or another by recommending you some Christmas songs and flicks. And right now I would like to talk about one of them in detail, but I will do my best to keep it short and sweet, or shorter and sweeter than usual, than always. And I would like to say a few words about the film Planes, Trains and Automobiles from 1989. And this film was written, produced and directed by John Hughes. And he's known for many teenage comedies, like even before this film there was The Breakfast Club, for example, and he's known for many good scripts for the films, mostly dealing with the teenage problems, comedies, but not only, because also I think that it was him who wrote the script for Christmas Vacation. I could be mistaken.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
That thing had 9 lives, she just spent them all.
But he was also a frequent collaborator of Chris Columbus, and he cooperated with him on several occasions. So a fun fact is that there is another Christmas classic, Christmas Vacation, and at the beginning it was supposed to have been directed by Chris Columbus, but he couldn't get on with Chevy Chase, like many other people also in the business, and he decided to direct a small film called Home Alone. And as we all know, it is another Christmas classic. So we can't say from one sinking ship onto another, but actually from one successful franchise onto another one. Oh, good for him, because apparently he was a good guy, a good fella. Anyhow, coming back to the topic, to the point.
Kevin!
Home Alone.
Actually, when you do think about it in depth, so Planes, Trains and Automobiles is not a Christmas film per se, because it circulates around the time of Thanksgiving in America, so it is like a prelude, or the prelude to Christmas, the Christmas Yule season. Anyhow, it has definitely this Christmas vibe, the winter time, the atmosphere of buying gifts, of this shopping craze, the madness, getting home on time. And this is exactly what this film is about getting home on time for a Thanksgiving dinner. And it shows a story of an unusual couple. So we have two characters played by Steve Martin and John Candy, so respectively Neil Page and Del Griffith. One of them is a successful businessman. Actually, one of them works in an advertising agency, and the other one, so he's a little bit down on his luck, but a very decent, very honest guy who sells shower curtain rings. This is pretty atypical, but apparently he is able to make a living out of it. Anyhow, coming back to the plot.
Steve Martin.
Ever been to Hawaii?
John Candy.
they end up being together and they need to collaborate with each other and to make out the differences and overcome them, all the obstacles, in order for Neil Page to reach his home and finally spend some quality time together with his family, with the beloved ones. Well, Del, he tags along and he's rather more of an anchor, an obstacle rather than a helping hand, but like I said, he's a very decent guy, he has a heart of gold and you have to admire that about Del, played exquisitely by John Candy.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better.
What works perfectly in this film is the clash of different personalities. Neil Page is a no-nonsense guy, he's high-strung, he's serious. On the other hand, we have Del, who is a laid-back guy, a very outgoing, outspoken, he loves talking, chit-chatting with strangers. He's also a bit lonely for some reasons, but he's a cheerful guy inside, and probably he has some complexes which could be, or which might have been even before, exploited by people, but he tries not to take it personally. But he may only act like he had a very thick skin, but he's a very sensitive fella, very sensitive guy inside. And like I've mentioned, he has a heart of gold, so whenever he can help somebody, he does it, for better or worse. Sometimes actually the effect is quite opposite to the intended one, but you have to admire the effort, and after all, it's the thought that counts, isn't it?
And a Casio.
I'm not going to go through the whole narrative, but there is one hilarious scene, one of many hilarious scenes, in which both of the characters, they are stuck in one hotel room on the same bed. And in that particular scene, Del ends up kissing in the morning after waking up, or not even waking up, Neil on the cheeks, and Neil says, Del, why are you kissing me? And Del replies, Neil, why are you holding my hand? But Del, where is your second hand? It's between the pillows. These are not pillows! And he stands up, and of course it turns out that it was his buttocks.
Those aren't pillows.
And the scene right after that, it's hilarious because they are trying to reaffirm their masculinity. Have you seen the Bears game? Oh yes, that was fantastic, really good play, really good players. And trying to, like I said, reaffirm their masculinity. So this is so hilarious. Just the beginning of what is going on later on, so trust me, you burst out laughing throughout the whole narrative.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game, hell of a game. Bears got a great team this year.
And in that particular moment, Del is holding one of his hands between the buttocks of Neil Page. Wow. So no wonder that they had to reaffirm their masculinity after such a morning, after such a wake-up, right? Oh, that was a wake-up call, so to speak. No pun intended.
Where's your other hand? Between two pillows.
But the funny scenes are intertwined seamlessly with the more nostalgic, more sentimental and emotional ones. So it is a perfect blend. It is the whole 9 yards and even more than that. So this is a match made in heaven. And I'm talking about the characters, the actors playing them, portraying them spotlessly, and also the narrative itself. And if you think that I have spoiled something, you ain't seen nothing yet. Trust me, this is only the beginning. Moreover, what also makes this film work even better is the soundtrack, the choice of songs and compositions. And for example, at the very end we have a very touching song, but it's a cover, it's a re-rendition, so it's not Paul Young's Every Time You Go Away, but it's sung by a lady. Anyhow, just you know the song, how it goes, so this is fantastic and it underlines the emotions which you can see in that moment very well. It is just the perfect combination with the picture, what is going on with the music, how well it is crafted and adjusted to that moment, because it goes a little bit like this. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, we can solve any problems. Do 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 then why will we lose so many tears? Oh, every time you go away, oh, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, very rarely does it happen that I complain about a film being too short. Oftentimes it's the other way around, so films are too long, especially nowadays, but this film, it's around 90 minutes, a bit shorter than that, and that's a shame, because actually the original footage, it was over 3 hours long, 3 hours and 30 minutes, maybe even 45, but some of the material has been lost and it will never be retrieved. Some of it, probably it is in a raw form, it's never been remastered in any way, so it is what it is. It's very condensed, very compact, and I love it because the pacing is great, it's fantastic. If there is some negative aspect, probably it's that it could have been packed even more with humor, with humoristic scenes, with fantastic silly moments, but silly in a good way, in a smart way, because this is a perfect blend, actually, this film, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, of a very hilarious comedy, a very nice one, very fun one. It will certainly make you crack up, but also it's a very clever film. It shows the value of a true friendship and the family, and how important friendship and love are in everybody's lives. So this is great, and it has touching moments, really.
Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me.
Even the toughest guys, they could shed a tear or two. And I know that I used this phrase before whilst filming my Christmas film, the clip. Anyhow, like I said, the amalgam of different genres, this is a chef's kiss. This is this master touch of John Hughes, that he was able to combine two genres so swiftly, so seamlessly. A great comedy and a great clever script on top of that, the narrative. And the original one, the original version, allegedly it was a little bit different, but thankfully John Hughes decided to change the ending for the better, for a more moving one. What happens throughout the whole narrative, I don't want to spoil it to you, but you know, it's been shown on the telly, on many platforms, it's available there all the time, so I guess that if you really are into the older cinema from the 1980s, the 1990s, so you must have seen it. I don't believe it that you haven't seen it, you are not familiar with it somehow. But if by some miracle you are, then hesitate no more, and please follow my recommendation, because this is definitely a must-see, and it's a holiday themed film, so it's also good for Christmas. Although Thanksgiving, Christmas, well, they are separate, different, yet a little bit similar, so I think that this is exactly what makes it also a good recommendation for Christmas, as a Christmas flick.
Have a happy holiday. This will help.
One technical thing, I wish it were my copy of the film, but it's not, alas, unfortunately. I only borrowed it for Christmas and I need to give it back, so by the way, on a side note, if you have a giveaway copy, so you could send it to me. Anyhow, but back on the right track, the DVD quality, the picture quality, really, it is superb. So I've had the Blu-ray version somewhere, probably the German one, I don't know where, so I can't compare it, but I've heard that the Blu-ray version is pretty decent. Alas, the 4K one, it's horrible because it features this artificial smoothing of, for example, the skin, the texture, and there is no filmic grain, there is like artificial grain. And maybe to many people it doesn't matter and they wouldn't even notice it, but I do know that for real film buffs it does, and it sticks out like a sore thumb, it shows definitely, in a bad way. But I have this DVD release, well, I have it for now, and it is really great. And this is a full screen presentation, so like in this case, everything is filled to the brim. There are no letterbox margins at the top, at the bottom of the screen, and the detail is there, and there's this filmic grain, like it was copied straight from the film reel, and I love it. So it emphasizes, it underlines the atmosphere of the 1980s even more. And I hope that they are not planning on making any remake, on creating any remake, because I think that back in the day, some years ago, I heard about this crazy wacky idea, do not touch this, can't touch this, can't touch this, because why? Just to update it? Come on!
Can't touch this.
It shows an everlasting theme. The power of friendship, love, family time, spending it together with the closest ones, giving somebody a second chance, forgiving, being compassionate, outgoing, reaching out with a helping hand. This is all still relevant, even in the modern times, in the modern era, maybe more so than ever before. So please do not remake it. Just create a copy, whatever, but don't even call it Planes, Trains and Automobiles, alright? But coming back to that, so it's a very decent DVD release, and I would recommend it to everybody who would like to have it in their own collection.
Paramount's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, now on video cassette. See two comic geniuses working closely together.
Of course, the 4K version is the preferred one, but since they've managed to screw it up somehow, so the real film buffs, probably who are into the picture quality, have to wait for a re-release, like the remaster of a remaster. That sounds great, really. How badly can you screw it up? I don't know, but this one, I wish I had it in my collection.
Seldom do two stars hit it off, like John Candy and Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
And those fortunate ones who have been following my channel for quite some time, they do know that I'm a fan of learning different languages, and I'm trying to learn German. And this film, this release, fortunately it does feature German subtitles. So actually the original title of the film, if I'm not mistaken, it's Ein Ticket für zwei. So one ticket for two. And
Ein Ticket für zwei.
also it was released under this name, under this title in many other countries, like I know that in Poland for sure. It depicts what is going on in the narrative, because they are stuck together and they keep traveling together for better or worse, and Dell keeps coming back like a boomerang. So Neil Page cannot get rid of him, although he tries his best. But this is the beauty of this film, that they are stuck together, they have to travel together, and they find the best company. Well, definitely you have to see whether they become good friends or not. Check it out on your own, no spoilers. But the German subtitles really is great, so I even switched the German ones in favor of my favorite Spanish ones, because this really helps in learning languages and is very gratifying. But that was just on a side note, something to add, something positive, that there is also a learning value to that. So do remember, Ein Ticket für zwei is definitely worth seeing, especially at Thanksgiving/Christmas time.
Fue un placer conocerte, de verdad. Siento haberte causado tantos problemas.
No me causaste ningún problema. Me trajiste a casa.
One more thing about the cast, so they were selected perfect. I mean, Steve Martin and John Candy, it's a perfect duo. If I'm not mistaken, they never starred in any other flick together as companions, as partners, alas. And John Candy passed away in 1994, so that was very unfortunate. And John Candy, just like Steve Martin, had many great roles. So I'll always love Uncle Buck. I think it was a bit underappreciated by some critics, but it also has a very good average rating, because on IMDb it's around 7.1 or 3, and this one has 7.6 out of 10. And Roger Ebert gave it initially 3.5 stars out of 4, so 3.5 thumbs up, but then he upped it up, he improved it, he increased it to 4 thumbs, because even he admitted that he would come back to it every single Thanksgiving. So it shows how great of a film it was and how relevant it still is in the modern times.
John Candy as Uncle Buck.
What does he like to drink?
And obviously Christmas is over, so no more pigging out at the table, coming back to the gym, working on your silhouette, pumping that iron, and back on the right track. Well, those days off were really necessary, but now let's come back to the right stuff and to the training routine to be back on the right track with the training, with the diet, because after all it's also healthy. So spoiling yourself every now and then is good, but like a wise person said, everything in moderation is good, but everything in excess is poison. So that is why right now we are coming back to the gym, working on our silhouettes, right?
Not been beaten for the last 7 years.
As always, thank you very much guys for your attention. I hope that you have liked my shorter take, hopefully, on Planes, Trains and Automobiles, or Ein Ticket für zwei, the German title. If you have liked this video, please give the video the thumbs up, please share your comments on the film itself, on the cast, on the performances, on John Hughes as a director, as a writer, also on Chris Columbus, and your favorite Christmas classics. And if you are not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing to it. That would be all, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in the new year, 2024. May it be better than the last one, 2003, and worse than the new one, 2025, so we will always be on top of everything, thanks to that. Cheers, bye. Even the toughest guys, they could shed a tear or two. I'm back where I belong, back in baby's arms.
I'm not crazy. It's Christmas Eve. It's the one night of the year.